Your word declares that you have entrusted us stewards of your wealth and your riches. Father, we pray that as we are here this evening, that you will give us the know-how. Let the words that come empower us to manage the resources that you have given us. You said the silver is yours and the gold is yours. And as you have appointed us stewards, Lord, we need the tools and the resources. So we thank you for even this opportunity once again, that we are able to learn to manage that which you have entrusted us. May your name be praised. May your name be glorified. We thank you for the success of this meeting. In your son Jesus' name we pray. Let's all shout a big amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Amor. So it's going to be a series of two talks, and then once we are done, we'll have a question and answer session. So first, I would like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Stephen Opon. He's an investment analyst, and he's here to talk with us today about investments. Thank you, Stephen.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric, for this opportunity. Hi, guys. I'm Stephen, as Eric stated. I did my college at West Virginia University, where I studied finance and economics. Then I moved to Arizona, went to University of Arizona, did an MBA there, and I'm now in Columbia University doing Masters in Enterprise Risk Management. So I've been in the finance field for quite some time now, right? So Eric invited me over for this basic investments series where we are starting now. Today we're just gonna start with the basic knowledge, basic understanding, owning a business, how you can maximize your taxes with business in terms of investments, setting up custodial accounts for kids, and setting and putting our kids in position where we come from a society where we not to say we lack, but we are not able to pass on generational wealth, right? Coming from a country like Ghana, I came from Ghana, came here for college. Came from a country where my parents, their friends, their neighbors, cousins, big family. It's like it was just a generational thing, a routine. My motivation of going into a finance was just what I saw home growing up, where once our parents come home from retirement, once they reach the age of retirement, they are broke, right? They depend on the kids, hoping that their kids will be successful for them to be able to take care of them. It was just a consistent thing, seeing that growing up, where you see a lot of adults where once they hit retirement age, government funding is not much back home. Then they are broke. They didn't save much for retirement. They live on paycheck to paycheck. So now there's no chances of, if their kids don't make it, they depend on others for. So we're just gonna touch on the basics, how we can maximize these investments, how we can put ourselves and our kids in a better position where they don't have to be in debt going to school, student loans on them, right? You can put them in a position where they already have enough cash sitting down waiting to cover their college expenses and all that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to touch on. So yeah, this program, so we just named it Financial Empowerment for Young Adult Professionals. The goal is just to build a strong foundation for financial success. So this is the first series of what's more to come. Right, so if you want to scoot over for me. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is understanding the motivation of savings and investing. And you look into the goals of savings and investing, right? When we talk about savings, basically what's the idea? It's just a financial concept that involves managing money with the goal of achieving specific objectives, right? That's what the whole idea about savings is. What importance that savings brings to us, we're going to look at financial security, setting up emergency funds, short-term goals, right? So savings generally is, in the finance world, is just considered as low-risk form of preserving capital And also they act as a financial safety net that provide funds for unexpected. So yeah, savings accounts, they are high yield, they are all that. I believe in savings account is great form of putting money together, but I'm more on the investment side of savings accounts. Savings account banks like Charles Schwab, banks like Bank of America, they can give you a percentage, point zero something, all right? That's just money sitting there not doing much, money sitting there not growing. But the banks are rather loaning these monies out to other businesses, and they are making money of your money just sitting there. So instead of your money sitting there is no need to take crazy risks when it comes to savings, because you are always looking on the long term of everything, right? So important that we save so that when we have the emergency fund sitting down, if today you are called that, hey, your child is sick. When I looked at certain statistics in America, that there are families that cannot afford a $500 emergency fund, which is scary. If today you have an emergency and you cannot afford a $500 emergency, that's something to be worried about, especially if you do have kids, if you do have family. So it's a habit, it's a lifestyle that we have to put in place. We have to cultivate the habit of just learning to put money down and learning to invest and all that. Right. So that is mostly savings for you. With savings, the important is also, as I stated, emergency funds, financial security, short-term goals. Savings accounts are great, but I prefer being on the investment side. So in terms of investing, what am I looking at as invest? So investing is just using money to generate a return. Typically involves purchasing of assets or financial instruments, right? So investing is more on the higher risk than a regular savings account. When we talk about investments, what are we looking at? In the finance world, you hear in America, the big talk about is, the stock market, the stock market, the stock market. That's the big thing in America. You hear a lot about the stock market. But the question is, how many of us, how many families are able to put down $200, $100, knowing that, hey, I can buy an Apple stock for maybe $60 and I can sit down and wait. A lot of families cannot even afford the day-to-day rather than putting money. So that's when you have series of Ponzi schemes coming in saying, hey, I will give you bring $2,000, you can make $1 million. But we have to look at life in a different context. So when I talk about savings, investments, I'm talking about the most common investment vehicles, like a stock. What then is a stock? A stock is an ownership in a company. So you and I sitting here today, we can decide to purchase a stock by opening a brokerage account with one of our firms. Any other firm in America, you open a brokerage account. You can buy a share in a company. It just represents an ownership in a company. So instead of just having the money sit in a savings account, which is great, right? But you don't want to put all your funds and resources in a savings account. So you want to be able to allocate some in these positions. So a stock is just what? An ownership in a company, which signifies a claim to the company. So if today I buy Apple, so we have an example is an Apple stock, right? So you buy Apple, 20 shares of Apple. You are part of the Apple company. You do have shares on the Apple company, but when it comes to investment, what you're looking at is on the long-term basis. It's like going to the market and buying a pen for $10. In the next 5 years, you're hoping that pen grows to become like $150. That is when you make your profits. Investments is always something that you have to look at on a long-term basis, not short-term quick fixes. I mean, even the Bible talks about it in the Bible talks about it in Proverbs 21:5. What does the Bible say? The Bible says the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely haste leads to poverty. So if you rush into an investment where it says, hey, bring $2,000 today, you can make $200,000 in the next 3 months, it's not realistic. It does not make sense. That's not how the world works. So when I talk about benefits of investing, what are the benefits of investing? So the benefits of investing is you being able to grow your wealth, right? It's capital appreciation. You are able to grow your wealth, but you are doing that in a very diligent way. You are doing that in a very progressive way. You are not doing that based on any haste, based on making decisions on impulse. So I would say it's a great opportunity for you to look at these options where you talk about. So we are going to discuss several investment forms, several accounts, several benefits to all these things. And we're also going to discuss the balancing savings and investments, where you have to be able to balance in terms of risk management and all that. Yeah, Eric. Yeah. So this slide is just empowering your children, exploring educational and custodial accounts. Great. So coming to this church, I realize there are a lot of kids in this church, right? People do have kids, and we have to put our kids in position where come the year for them to go to college, start pre-K, start K1 to 12. You don't put your kids in a situation where they have to go for financial aid. It's not a bad thing, but it's a debt in front of them. Imagine a kid finishing school. That kid is probably 21, but they have a debt of almost $200,000-$300,000. Now college tuitions are not going down. If you are not fortunate for your kid to get scholarships, if you are not fortunate for your kid to get into maybe a sports program where they get some waivers, you don't get that. So these are your options. We look at a plan called 529 plan. What is a 529 plan? So 529 is a tax advantage savings plan, like it's a state-sponsored plan that enables you to save for a beneficiary and education-based purpose. So personally, I use 521. I'm attending Columbia, 529. I'm attending Columbia now. I started saving for my 529 because I had the plans of going to Columbia. So what I then do is, it has a higher contribution limit. So during birthdays, during any day, when you want to gift your kids something, instead of you can buy toys, you can buy all that great, but think about it. You can also put down $20, $40, $60 into a 529 plan. With a 529 plan, you can invest in stocks. You can invest in ETFs. ETFs is basically, it tracks indexes, it tracks performance of the market. So like recently, SEC approved Bitcoin ETF. It doesn't mean you are holding the currency Bitcoin. It just means it's tracking the performance of how Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin is volatile, that means so instead of just going in to buy Bitcoin, and I'm personally not a fan of it, instead of just going to buy and holding cryptocurrency, you can rather buy the Bitcoin ETF. What that then do is you're going to track the performance of those holding that Bitcoin. If it goes up, your money goes up, so your ETF goes up and all that. So there are several ways, and these 529 plans, you start for a kid as young as let's say as young as Reverend Kwame Brown's kid. Like you put the money down, gifts for the kid. By the time they get to the college fund, you have at least enough money invested for them, where that same money will be used for their college expenses, tuition, room on board, books, computers. And the nice thing about 529 is it's not just for kids, it's for older people. If we want to go back to school, if you want to do anything involving education, instead of doing loans, you can look at these 529 plans. Educational savings account. All right, educational savings account is also a type of savings account. What this does is basically this gives a limit. As a parent, you can contribute up to $2,000 each year for a child. The nice thing about education savings account is if you have 5 kids, if you have 3 kids, and by the age of termination, 1 kid uses it and there's still enough money in it, you can transfer that same funds to the other kid. So it's something, once a kid has a social security number, you can start putting money down for the kid. You can start doing 1,000, if you can do as much as 1,000 a year, if you can contribute up to the 2,000 limit. These contributions you make into these plans, what then do you do? What do you do is then you invest in the market. You buy the stocks we talk about. You buy ETFs. You buy The kid is young. You can do a little bit of aggressive stuff, right? Instead of just going to bet your money on some scheme that, hey, you can bring this and you make this money. Just believe in the system that with the long-term process, it's going to work out. By the time your kid turns 18, that money can fund a lot of these college expenses, which is skyrocketing, which is ridiculously expensive now. The great thing about these ESAs too is kids can use it for, if you want your kid to go to private school, you start saving now, right? It's a great cause. I think in America, private schools are ridiculously expensive. Unlike, Ghana, yeah, Ghana it's expensive, but it's somehow moderately priced. So you want to look into these ESAs where you build a sustainable future for your kid. The money is invested for you. You buy in these securities, the money is invested. Come time for tuition, you just go in and I have my previous job, I had clients, mostly Indians, Chinese, white, right? They believe in these systems. The reason why I was just motivated to talk about it is people like you and I, people that look like me, don't usually believe in this stuff. We end up falling in the trap of doing student loans. And that puts us in huge debt. By the time you finish school, you are paying almost $500-600 of your paycheck back for the student loans, and that's just covering interest. So if you look at these positions, these ESA accounts, these 529s, you'll be able to save from the time your kid is that young. By the time they reach the year of college, you have enough to cover tuition, and if they have scholarships, you thank God. So if they are doing it, why can't we do it? Why can we not invest in these positions, in these accounts that America, the system has set up for us? And these all come on tax advantages, right? These all come on tax advantages as long as they are used for college expenses. The third one is custodial accounts. So with the custodial accounts, look at it as a gift to the child, right? You have kids today, it's a gift to their child. It's called the Uniform Transfer Minor Act, where you save, that has no contribution limit. So any amount you want to put in for your kid, you put in that amount for your kid, you save, you invest in the market. We cannot be hearing about the stock market every day and not benefit from it. We cannot say, oh, because yes, we have to buy the basic needs. We have to buy a shoe, we have to buy this for the kid, but we also have to be able to manage ourselves and believe that I can put $200-300 a month for my child, and that is going to yield a lot of profits coming up. So these custodial accounts, what do? It does not belong to you, the parent. It's a gift to the child. I have not a funny story, but an unfortunate situation with these custodial accounts where my old firm, this man just invested for the kid. So put a lot of money down in the custodial accounts where you can do up to more than $17K and all that. They put all the money down. The money was almost up to $500,000 invested in the stock market. The man went through a divorce, and the kid chose the mom's side, right? Where there was an argument between them. The kid said a lot of things to the father. The father wasn't happy. The father called in, hey, I want to take my money back. I'm not on good terms with the kid and cannot do this. Can you guys give me the money back? But we had to explain to him, no, this is a gift to the child. Once the kid turns the age of majority. So every state has an age of majority. It can be 18, it can be 21, depending on the state. But once the kid turns into that age of majority, it's entirely up to the kid. It's fully for the kid. You can no longer touch it. So these provisions, when we have these provisions set up for our kids, we put ourselves in a very great position where we don't have to worry about retiring. We don't have to worry about not working anymore. Because, man, as I said early on, my father was my biggest fan, man. He loved me, man. Before he died, he wished so much for me, right? He wanted me to come to America for college. He wanted me to do all that. But he got to a point in life where he got sick and lost a lot of his wealth. Back home in Ghana, he didn't have a lot of savings. He didn't have all that was. Most of his friends around him, they used to work for, I don't know if you guys know about the company Black Star Line. Was a shipping company then. When Rollins sold it, most of them, I saw a lot of my dad's friends. They had no backup in life. They had no backup, and they had to depend on hoping that their kids become successful for them to be able to take care of them. So, and this is so dominant in our community as black people. We have to be able to move away from that. You see a lot of white families, Asian families, a lot of them transferring wealth. You know, Forbes just recently reported that the baby boomers, now 2.5 million or 2.3 million of wealth is going to be transferred to the Gen Zs coming up. Ask yourself, how many of these wealth, or how much of these wealth is going to be transferred to kids that look like me? That's the, I started my job, when I first started my job at Schwab, I started my job with a friend, Carl, that was my good friend at Schwab. His grandma died. We went to the funeral, blah, blah. After everything, we sat down. Oh, he's like, dude, they just called me. I'm like, what happened? Oh, they're going to transfer $800,000 for me. That's what my grandma left for me. Think about it. You are starting a job with a friend who's already having $800,000 sitting down. You are coming from like negative 2,000, right? You are, that's the difference we are facing in life, right? Negative 2,000, you are way behind, but you are starting life with a friend whose grandmother taught about transferring the wealth, right? What he's gonna do is, he's gonna be in great financial position. He's gonna be able to transfer these wealth over to his kids, and his kids, so then it becomes a consistent generational wealth be transferred. Why can we not do that as our people, as black people? We cannot do that. And it's very sad that you work in an industry where I don't believe it's, yes, there are people that talk about systematic. Great, I believe in all those systems that do marginalize us. But we also have to educate ourselves to the point that we don't always turn our backs blaming others for our misfortunes. That's when it comes in. This is our time for us to also be able to save and be able to make much for ourselves, all right? All right. So these are the accounts that we are looking to set up for our kids. When it comes to us as individuals, as working people, anybody with earned income, as long as you make income, be it from the church, be it from your individual work or whatever you do, your job can give you a 401k. Great, they will match it for you. But personally, what are you doing for yourself? These accounts give you an option not to just have money sitting in a savings account for a business, sitting in a savings account for the bank to make money off of you. This gives you the opportunity for you to put money in the stock market, buy shares in Apple, buy shares in Google. When these companies are reporting great earnings, you are also sitting at home smiling. You understand what's going on because your 401ks, your IRAs are also growing for you. And all these accounts can be transferred over. Think about it this way. You can move these funds to your kids. So it's always thinking about, America is set up in a way, generational wealth is number one thing. America passes wealth on a lot. If you look in the most successful people in the Walton family, the kids today didn't make the money. They came to meet it. Their grandparents created Walmart. And that was a generational wealth that transferred all over onto them. So we can do some for our kids. We can change the narrative for ourselves. So the first one I'm going to touch on is what we call a traditional IRA. Right. What is what is then a traditional IRA? So it's an individual arrangement account. Basically, it provides a tax advantage for retirement savings. I mean, with this account, the IRS always updates the contribution limit. Who can contribute? I can contribute, you can contribute. If you do have earned income, as long as you work, as long as you make money, you earn money, business or whatever, you can contribute to this type of account for yourself. If you are over the age of 50, that's the great thing about America. They always give you an option to catch up. If you are over the age of 50, I think for 2024, you can do up to $8,000. If you're under the age of 50, you can do up to $7,500. This is money you can, in a year, think about how much you make, think about how much you spend on other things. Think of how much you buy clothes, how much you buy on food, and decide, hey, what is 7,500 divided by 12? I'm going to split it into whatever. If you get paid twice a year, then you can split 7,500 into 24. Divide that. I'm going to make sure I put this money down for myself. This is a discipline. You know, the Bible talks us, we being disciplined. You have to be disciplined in these instances. Put the money down, be disciplined. Again, with this account, you invest in the stock market. You invest in ETFs. You invest in all the financial instruments in the. And the great thing is you can call a company today. We can be on phone and call Charles Schwab, call Vanguard. They have great representatives who can walk you through the process. I'm here at the church. You can definitely talk to me, and any way or form I can assist, I can do that. So this account, once you turn the age of 59 and a half, so you can contribute till you turn, there's no age for contribution, right? You can always make the contribution $7,500 a year or $8,500 a year into our traditional IRAs. The only thing is, every money you take out of a traditional IRA, if you are under the age of 59 and a half, it comes with a 10% penalty and taxes, and you are taxed at your ordinary income tax bracket. So let's say whatever you make, if you have 2,000 in there, if you take 2,000 out, you are going to be taxed on the 2,000, and you pay 10% penalty on the 2,000 if you are under the age of 59 and a half. But if you are over the age of 59 and a half, all you have to worry about a traditional IRA is paying taxes on it once you make any distribution out of it, right? These taxes and penalties are set in place for us to be disciplined and understand that this money, we are putting it down for tomorrow. This is not a money we are. So instead of just throwing money in a savings account, just having it sitting there whilst the bank makes money off of it, you can throw money in an IRA. You can invest in an IRA and make good for money. My favorite one is Roth IRA. For every young person, every young old person, and this is one of the greatest way people transfer wealth in America. It's called Roth IRA. What is a Roth IRA? So basically, a Roth IRA, it's also just one moment here. So Roth IRA is an after-tax dollars contribution. What is the meaning of after-tax dollars contribution? If you get paid, once you get paid, you can take money out of your account and also make that $7,500. The distinction between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA is, with a traditional IRA, it's tax deductible. What does that mean? If you make an income of $70,000 a year, and if, let's say, you contribute $7,000 into that, at the end of the year, you can report to the IRS that you made an income of $63,000. Why? Because you are deducting the $7,000 you put into the traditional IRA. That makes it tax deductible. With the Roth IRA, the great thing about Roth IRA is after-tax dollars. What does after-tax dollars mean? Meaning, once you get paid, you put money in the Roth IRA. With a Roth IRA, every amount you contribute, you can always take it out tax penalty free. The great thing about it is once you turn 59 and a half, your earnings and your contributions are all tax penalty free. So this is what a lot of, but these things come with income limitations, right? With a Roth IRA, it comes with income limitation. I think if you make, with a joint, if you make over something over, I think, 139,000 or 200 cell, you cannot contribute. But what rich people do is they always find ways around this thing. There is something called backdoor conversion. A rich person that makes so much money, they cannot put money directly in a Roth. What they will do is they will put the money in the traditional IRA. Since they did not take a deduction, it goes in as a non-deductible contribution. They will then move the money from the traditional IRA to the Roth IRA. That becomes a conversion, right? They will report, there's a tax form called 8606. They will report to the IRS that, hey, the money that I put in the traditional IRA, I did not take a deduction off of it, and I moved it into the Roth. Why are they doing that? Because they want to stack as much money as they can into the Roth, because once they turn 59 and a half, the entire account becomes tax penalty free. So that's a lot of money sitting in a Roth IRA that has become tax penalty free. The beauty about this is this money you can transfer to your kid who takes over as an inherited IRA. If the kid takes over as an inherited IRA, what then happens? If your Roth, you are over the age of 59 and a half, your Roth has met, well, we have something called a 5-year rule. What does that mean? You put the money in, after 5 years, now you can take the earnings out without penalties and all that. So any earnings that is transferred over to your kids, they then take everything out tax penalty free. It's just a systematic thing in this country, right? Rich people find ways, putting money down, beating the tax system, and making money. So why can we not do it too as individuals? Why can we not, as people, why can we also not put ourselves in that position where we make contributions to these accounts instead of putting money just in a savings account where we can invest in the market, sit at home, enjoy the benefits, and when, not to do politics, when Trump screams, hey, the stock market is doing well, you can also sit at home and laugh about it, right? Because you see your money is also growing for you. The custodial IRA. So this is because it's a retirement account for minors under 18, the kid has to have end income. Maybe if you've not noticed, sometimes you might see a lot of kids out selling lemonade and all that. That counts as earned income, right? What can their parents do with that? They can definitely put money down for them as basically, so you can set up a custodial Roth account for your kid where they put money down. As long as the kid has something that you can prove to the IRS that is an earned income, you can always put that money in and report to the IRS, hey, my kid did this job, my kid is working here, this is for my kid. That kid is a child. By the time that kid reaches the ages of whatever, 21, 19 and all that, again, this same account, you have what we call a qualified expense, where if that kid takes money out of this to pay the tuition for medical expenses, the government doesn't tax you on anything. So these are all structures set up for us to be successful, for us to be able to put money down and save. I mean, that's the goal of life. Putting money down, saving, and letting the money grow, letting the money work for you, rather than having money just sitting in a savings account where you don't make much of it. All right, the last one is just a rollover IRA. Rollover IRA just means if you had a 401k or a sponsored plan with your company and you're moving to a different company, you can roll those funds into a rollover IRA instead of moving it to your new company. What this gives you is it gives you that liberty, freedom, right? Freedom to invest in the way you want it. Because if you're in an employer-sponsored plan, it's structured. You cannot invest in certain things, but this option gives you that liberty for you to invest in whatever you want to invest in. Eric? Yeah. All right, so this is for business owners and contractors. So this is my last slide I'm going to touch on today. So if you own a business, if you're self-employed, right, this section is solely for you. All right. Again, for a self-employed individual, what is the goal here? You are looking to be able to maximize and reduce your income, get tax benefits from the IRS, right? SEP IRA is just called a simplified employee pension. What is a simplified employee pension? So it's just an easy way for self-employed individuals, for you guys to put money down for investments. So if I own a business today and I decide, hey, I have a business, I want to start contributing. The beauty of this plan is it gives you room to put up to 20% of whatever your income is for your business, up to $66,000. So think about it. And this gives you deduction on your business reporting. So whatever your income is at the end of the year, you get a business deduction as I paid my employees. You have employees, you can put your employees on these SEP IRAs. SEP IRAs is set up where you set stipulation on when an employee can join this plan, right? So if they started today, it doesn't mean today you can put them on. You set up stipulation, say in the next 2-3 years, they will be part of the plan. All these are strategies for you to maximize your taxes. That's what, for you to maximize just income, put money down, invest the money, report to the IRS, hey, I put this money in a pre-tax account, I'm taking this deduction of my account. If at the end of the year I made 200,000, an example, my business contribution, I was able to contribute about 40,000 to this account as an employee. What then do? You tell the IRS, it reduces your income tax to your earned income becomes 140,000. That's all the goal. The goal here is to just be able to maneuver around the tax system by putting money down while saving for yourself. So those are the contributions for that SEP IRA. We have another one called an individual 401k. So individual 401k is just mostly for a business owner and a spouse. So if you and your spouse own this business, what then is for you and your spouse? You and your spouse basically decide, hey, we are going to save money for just ourselves, right? You and your spouse, you're just going to decide, hey, let me put this here. Yeah, so you and your spouse, you're just going to put money down for yourself. My goal is for you guys to understand that we can maximize these accounts, because there are a lot of business owners. There are a lot of business owners here who can take advantage of these accounts, right? All right, so for an individual 401k, so it's also a self-employed retirement plan, and it's individuals and business owners with no common law employees. So you have no employees, it's just you and your spouse. You can do up to 25% of whatever your yearly income is, up to 69,000. Think about it. If my business made so much money, if you have a business making a profit of 20,000 a year, what is at least 10 by 20,000? Let's put it that way. If you are bringing in this much income, why don't you put yourself in a position where you can put up to 66,000 down? Because these are wealth that you can transfer. That's the number one goal. That's the mindset. Because you are trying to put your kids in a better position where today, if you are not there, or today you lose your job, I can dip into this, or I can help pay expenses, college tuition, and all that. So the goal for us this year, as Pastor talked about possessing our possessions, in possessing our possessions, we have to think smart. In doing that, we have to think smart. Thinking smart is, yes, we can afford a lifestyle. Yes, we can afford all other things. But why don't we then also take advantage of the system that America has provided? That's the beauty in this country. These setups, you cannot get them in Europe. Europe has most people in pensions. Ghana has most people in pensions, right? America gives that flexibility. That's the great thing about America. The system gives you that flexibility that as an individual business person, I can set up an individual 401k with my wife. When me and my wife own a business, we can put up to 25% of our income down. We can do up to 66,000. And at the end of the year, to think about it, we report to the IRS where we can get a deduction. Why can we not use this? Why can we not take advantage of this? The last one is a simple IRA. Simple IRA is just with folks with employees less than 100%, less than 100 people. So if you have employees less than 100 people, you don't want to keep a business where you are doing well and your employees are not doing well. Think about life that way. The more you treat your employees great, the more you put them in a good financial position, the more they can call you and, hey, I'm coming in for work. I'm not going to call out. Because they know at the end of the year, you're going to put something down for their pension. You're going to put a simple IRA contribution down. You can do up to 2%. So you as the employer, for the simple IRA, you're just going to match dollar for dollar. If the employee decides to put $100, you match them by doing that. What then this? It gives you a motivated employee. If your employee decides for a simple IRA, hey, I don't have that much money, I cannot put any down. You as the employer, you can do 2% for the employee. These are all sort of, but think about it. Even though you are contributing 2% for the employee, what you are doing for yourself is, at the end of the year, you report to the IRS, hey, I did put this amount of money down for my employee, so I'm getting my deduction. You are saving your employee at the same time, you are making money off of it, right? So this is the whole goal, this is the whole idea. Like, let's establish the generational wealth system in our community. Like, it's something like, we hear of these great rich people. We hear of Warren Buffett. We hear of all these great men, Bloomberg, these. Yes, there are a few of them that started from the scratch and made wealth. But best believe America, there are two or three things of how to be successful in America. Number one thing is, funny enough, is inherited wealth. Most successful people inherited their wealth. Number two is just getting a high-paying income job that can let you catch up. So if in our small way, in our own small way, we are not able to put our kids coming up in a better position, what our parents couldn't do for us, we are not able to put our kids in that better position, then what are we leaving for them? Them to go to college, take student loans, $200,000 in debt. When they come out, they start paying $600-$700 of their paycheck to the government. That can be avoided. That can be avoided. Was by investing in these accounts and these types of investment. The stock market, it's a great place, but again, if you think about the politics of it, how many people can put money down? Yes, I know it's great and it sounds, oh, am I going to be able to put money down and hold on the long term? Yes, you can. Because if today someone calls you that, hey, there is a deal, if you bring 2,000, I can double it in the next 5 weeks. Pastor and I was having a conversation this afternoon where it's great because I have a friend that happened to him. Oh, by the way, that's my wife. So my wife and I were sitting in a car, right? We met my friend, and my friend was telling me about, hey, I'm trying to invest this amount of money. They said I should bring, 2,000-3,000 pounds. He's in London, and I will get this amount of money. I'm like, dude, that's not how investment work. You have to believe in I always say to myself, if I cannot go at a company and read a company's statement of financials, the company's 10K, or even understand the basic business of what the company does, why should I invest in it? You can today sit here and take a phone and Google Apple. You know what it does. They sell products, they sell phones, they sell computers. So at least you can, from a layman's language, you can deduce from the fact that they made profits and they made losses, and this is it. But this friend I'm talking about put money in an investment that he had no idea about. Did I advise him as a friend? Yeah, we did talk him out of it, but nah, he wouldn't listen because it was just too good to be true. Fast forward 3-4 months later, he calls me. Oh, dude, I'm stuck. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I need about 20,000 pounds to go bail myself out of a situation, but when I pay the 20,000 pounds, I will get my money and double of it back. And I'm like, yo, dude, we talked about this. You promised you were not going to do it. See, that's what I just read about Proverbs 21:5. The Bible talks about it, right? This guy was impatient. This guy wanted to make money quick. It's the hasty decision that he made. So what then happens? Now he has his money locked up. He's calling friends to give me this. Hey, can you give me 1,000? Can you give me 2,000? And it's become a problem. And I cannot go to my wife and go tell my wife, hey, I'm carrying 5,000 to this guy. Yeah, because she was sitting there and we all talked him out of the situation. And now he's in a very bad financial situation, right? Because people tend to just want to hear the great things about money, but they don't want to do any reason. There's nothing in this world like you bring 1,000 today, tomorrow you're going to make 3, 4, 500% of it. It doesn't work like that. All these I explained to you, these are all long-term investments. Look at life on the other way. Buying a stock today, put yourself in a position, I'm going to hold the stock in the next 4 or 5 years. You definitely going to make, yes, the market, there's volatility, it will go up and down, but you're definitely going to make your profits off of it. So let's just put in the culture where set our kids up in a very good position, transfer wealth to our kids. It's a very great thing. And don't let your child be in that situation where you fly to America to come to school and you don't have a single dollar on you. It's not a nice thing. Because you cannot even take a phone and call home because there's nobody to call. You have to figure life out yourself. So yeah, at this point, I'll just let Eric come in and talk about business reporting. Then we will take it from there, any questions and all that.
I'm telling you, he should become a pastor right now. Seriously. Okay, so I will go mainly over the tax implications of what he spoke about, and then I'll just go over a basic brief tax breakdown, and then we can take it from there. Then we'll both be up, and then you can ask us anything that, anything relating to this. If it's about the Bible, ask Reverend Egan and Aaron over there. So if you can go to the 529 slide. Actually, let's go to the tax slide. Yeah. So to keep things fairly simple, I will. So the beauty about this country is the tax code is very extensive, and once you understand it, it's a beautiful thing, right? Like, I love talking taxes because there's so much you can do with it once you know, right? And the main goal that both me and Stephen are trying to accomplish is that you have all the information that you need. Let's go to the 529 slide. So, like how he was saying, the 529 and the educational savings plan have a lot of things that you can work with, right? It's a very tax-friendly, program. Essentially, in this state, you can actually deduct, I think, up to a certain amount each year of what you actually contribute to that plan. So that way, you reduce your taxable income. When he spoke about taxable income is the amount of money that you have that is taxed after all your deductions have been taken out. So the main goal in tax is to reduce your taxable income, right? When people like Donald Trump say they paid $700 in taxes, it's probably because he reduced his taxable income to about $3K, right? And it's possible because it's legal, right? And that's how come he's there, right? So the main goal is to actually bring that down. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So basically, the traditional is a pre-tax, right? So basically, like how he said, it's taken out before your money is being taxed, right? So it helps reduce your taxable income, right? Which makes you pay less tax now. Now, just like how he said, the tax will be paid on the contributions and the money that is earned on top of that, right? Now, as a tax person, there are ways to reduce that in the future, right? Based on certain things that can be done, exactly to ensure that. Now, it's not always easy. It's not always possible. The answer to many things that we say is it depends, right? So it depends on what your situation is to make that less taxable, right? The Roth is a post taxable a post tax contribution. So it's basically after you've paid your taxes on the income and you put that in, and just like how he said, the actual income from that, the actual contributions, which what you put into it, is not taxed, but what you pull out of it. By what you pull out, I mean what your money makes from that is what is being taxed. And he spoke about the custodial Roth IRA. Most people here own a business, right? The beauty about Brother Stephen mentioning the earned income, that you can pay your own kids, right? You can pay your own kids and take that deduction on the business end and put the money into that, because that is actually earned income. Because with that, they get a W-2, right? So, and right now, I believe the maximum deduction is $12,900, right? So that means you can pay your kids tax-free $12,900 and then put that money into this one, right? So that actually allows you to deduct income from your business. Like right now, let's take Auntie Howard, for example, right? Her business. Chelsea can literally just file papers all day, right? And pay the full amount for that year and actually deduct that and put that into a Roth, a custodial IRA for them, which she then determines what happens with that, right? And then on top of that, she can also contribute to a 529, plan as well. And the beauty about a 529 plan is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you don't get taxed on that unless the money is used for something besides school, right? So, right? Thank you. So, you want to make sure that your kids will be in school. One. Now, if there are not, the benefit here is that you have been able to grow money tax-free, right? And let's say you were a business owner, for example, right? You had a bad year, right? You can choose to pull that money out the year you have a bad year because you've made a loss on the business. The tax that you could owe on this one is now offset by such said loss, right? So that's how the tax code makes these things flexible, right? So I would say if you are hesitant, it doesn't hurt, right? There are many, like, for example, this year I opened a business, right? It's done no income, right? But I made enough money that I can net it out with that. Now, imagine if I had taken his advice and done that, right? I'm not going to pull that money out almost tax-free. Again, depending on how much I pull out. Now, I also advise, speak with your tax person, speak with your investment person, right? And please, don't take financial advice from Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp. Okay. Now, also back to the rollover, right? It is very, very, very important, right, that before you set it up, that you make sure that both brokerage accounts have been set up, right? But by that I mean, let's say I have a job, right? I left my old job. I still have my 401k with them, right? Now, to ensure that, like what our brother said, I have more freedom, I want to move it somewhere else so I can actually use those funds, right? But it's very important that as I move the funds, I avoid the 10% penalty and any taxes from pulling the money out, right? And what usually happens is that most people do not actually transfer it directly. They get the check, they hold the check, then they deposit the check. By doing so, the company that first had it will now send you a 1099 saying, hey, you pulled all your money out, right? That same 1099 is sent back to the IRS. So now they've seen you that you've pulled this money out. They will charge you a 10% penalty, and then you owe tax on top of that. Money that you've already sent out, right? So I always advise that make sure that you have both accounts set up. Do a direct transfer. Make sure that whoever helped you set up the new, make sure that whoever helped you set up the new brokerage, the new brokerage account calls your old one and has them transfer it, right? They'll send you a form, you sign it, you send it, you are done. Make sure that you do not get the check. And if you get a check, do not waste time. Make sure that it's deposited right away. And then get a letter saying that you have, that when you file your taxes, that is proof that that happened. Right? Sounds good? Okay, so now I will just go over basic tax stuff. Let's start with the form 1040. So this is a basic tax form. Everyone who files any taxes will have this form, right? This is the first form you have. It basically combines all the different schedules in your taxes here, right? Let's go to Schedule A. So if you see, it says medical and dental expenses. It says taxes paid. It says the interest you paid. And at the very bottom, which you can see, it also shows what contributions you made. Contributions also include what you gave in the church as well, right? So any tithe you paid, any givings you made, any offerings you made, that is here. That's why, and I'm pretty sure Auntie Gloria says a lot of times, you write your names on your envelopes. Please, it's very important, because at the end of the year, you can actually claim a portion of that based on your income on your taxes. Last year, the first year my wife and I got married, right? What happened was we didn't make the standard deduction, limits. But when I put in the money that we gave to the church, guess what? So now we got less taxes, So I always insist, even if it's $5, write it on the envelope. Trust me, Aunt Gloria will make sure it's written down. All right? And then you'll be good. Okay, and then the medical and dental expenses, what it does is that it multiplies the total amount of medical expenses you have once it exceeds a percentage of your total income, that amount over is tax deductible, right? So whenever you see a doctor, a nurse, get that statement, get that form. If you don't have an Excel spreadsheet, get a book and a paper, write it down, keep all the forms, right? Once the year comes up, bring it out, and you could get a deduction. Now, taxes paid, right? It says state and local taxes. That is any tax, even sales tax, right? I had someone I worked with who would keep every receipt he had, right? And then combine all the sales tax he paid the entire year, right? And then put it on his taxes. Now, I don't have that. I don't have that time to go over all that, right? There's a lot of stuff, right? But if you want to be that nitpicky, you can do that, right? All sales tax paid all year, right? That is there. Any states and local income taxes that you pay can go on there. Any taxes on your homes, right? When you personal property tax as well, right? That is on your vehicle, for example, right? When you file the yearly registration, right? The fee, the actual tax paid on the car, is also tax deductible. Any interest paid, if you own a house, any interest paid but it's only with real estate, not with your car. So just remember that. So basically, you have to, if you can. So everyone who files gets a $12,900 standard, deduction, right? But if you exceed that, that means that you can actually get more income taken off your total taxes, and that can actually reduce again your taxable income. Let's go to next one. So this is a Schedule B. This is an interest and ordinary dividends schedule. The first part is the interest. The next part is the dividends. Now, if you have a savings account, right? I'm pretty sure you've received a statement from them saying this is your interest at 1099 dash how to call it? A 1099 dash INT, right? It shows how much interest they've paid you. Now, they might have paid you $1 a month, 15 cents a month, right? It's really annoying, right? But as it adds up, you are required to actually put that on your tax as well, right? So that's what that's for. And then if you have any investments, also if you have any investments accounts as well, that also means that you have to also report that. So that is for both your interest and your dividends. You will receive a form for each one that says, okay, actually, so let me start by saying this. If you ever receive any form that starts with 10, that starts with a 1, 0, and then any number after that, and a dash and whatever, that is a tax form, right? There are many different kinds of tax forms, right? But you are required to put that on your taxes. All right, let's go to the Schedule C. So this is what I'm pretty sure a lot of you might be familiar with, right? This is a basic business tax form, right? This is if you just did your simple, and let me actually make this distinction, right? You can go to the government, you can go to the state and file for your limited liability, company, right? But that does not properly protect you, if that makes sense, right? Just by doing that, you file on this form. This form is on your personal taxes, right? So you increase your risk by just doing this. I only recommend this if you make about $5,000 to $10,000 5 to 10,000 minimum. You know, let's say you like to sell bebenku on Sundays, right? And that how do you call it? That isn't your main business. That's like a side gig to make Then this is kind of what you do. But basically, this just shows your business. It shows your income. It shows your basic, your basic expenses, right? This isn't too complicated. But again, all the extensive business deductions cannot come from here, right? Some do, but it's a bit more limited, right? So okay, let's go to the Schedule D. So this is if you invest, like how he was saying, invest in stocks and stuff. This is where this is the form that that comes on, right? If you look at the very first part, it says short term, and the very bottom part says long term, right? Short term is taxed higher than the long term because they want you to hold the money, much longer. I believe actually the short term tax rate is approximately 35%, and the long term I believe is about 15. Short, how do you call it? The short term is basically if you buy and sell your stock in the span of 1 year, right? So that is short term. If you buy or sell your stock in the time frame of 1 year, the long term is if you buy and sell your stock over a year, right? So that basically ensures that you don't pay a lot in in taxes. Okay, let's go to the next one. So this is if you one have a rental, or two you have either a partnership, a partnership, or how do you call it, a partnership or the S corp, right? That is where this income, will be at. So basically, if you have a rental, I think part 1 and part 2 are what you fill out, and if you have a C corp or an S corp, then that income. Actually, sorry, if you have a partnership or an S corp, then that will be on the next section of that. So that's what this is for. All right, let's go to a C corp. No, sorry, a 1065. So this is if you have a partnership, right? A partnership, I think the switch back there. Give us just a second. Three. No, actually, hit 2. Good. Okay, so you might not see, but a 1065 is a part. How do you call it? Is a part. Is for a partnership, right? I believe you have a maximum of about 100 per one, And then what this does is it allows you to have the how do you call it, the protections, but you still have to pay how do you call it? You still have to pay a how do you call it? A self-employment how do you call it? A self-employment how do you call it? Self-employment yes, self-employment yes, self-employment taxes. So it's good in some ways. In some ways, it's not so good, right? I only advise this if you just want to have a business and run a business with someone, or you want to have a business be a member of a of a different business, right? Okay, let's go to the S corp. Hello. Okay, so I personally this is my personal favorite with a business because this gives you a lot more. This gives you basically the best of the best of the best of the best of both of both the partnership and the C corp, right? Basically, this allows you to get the self-employment income deduction while ensuring that you get the most taxable deductions and protections from the business. So basically, self-employment income is where if you have a regular business, right, or if you have a job, right, when you pay your tax, right, the person who owns the the person who owns it is also paying you. It's also paying the it's also paying it's also paying the IRS a portion of the tax as well, right? So that is about, I think, about a 30%. That is about 30% once it's in, right? But what this actually does is, instead of you paying that amount on all your income, it gives you the flexibility of paying yourself, which in you paying that self-employment income, you avoid paying it on all your income. So let's say I have a business, right? I made 150 this year, right? For my business and what my role is in my business, it makes sense to pay myself about 60K, right? So I pay the tax on that 60K, right? It's all deductible, right? And then I can avoid paying self-employment taxes on the rest of the 90K left over, and only pay what is my tax rate on that, right? So that in most people can save you roughly 10 to 15 to even 20, to even 20K, in just tax alone, right? And then also that allows you to get all the flexibility from that, i.e., you can even buy a car, use the car, and then pay yourself a portion of the value of the car. Now let's go to the C corp. And also one thing with the S corp is that you cannot have a business. No business can how do you call it? The S corp can't be owned by a business, right? So it has to be an individual with a social who has it, right? Okay, now to the C corp. Now this gives you the most legal protections, right? before this was not really a favorite because the tax rate was about 35 percent. Right now it's at 21, right? Which in some instances it's much more favorable, right? And it also gives you the most protections. However, the issue with it is that you run into the issue of double 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 taxation, right? Which isn't always the best, but again, you have to speak with your financial, to kind of have the best info, right? So I always advise that before you open a business, I highly stress this. Before you open a business, seek someone who knows about business. Talk to them before you start investing. Talk to someone who has information, and then go from there. Luckily, you have both brother Stephen and I, right? So we are here at any time to speak with you and help you sort this out. So we are going to open the floor for any question and answers. And please, if you are on Zoom, please, or on YouTube, please be ready to how do you call it, to just send your how do you call it, send the question, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, so just quickly from what Eric said, it was a great presentation, right? When you give to the church, think about it this way. You are not losing money. One, you get blessings from God. Two, America is a great country where you go back home and you take it out of your income. That's why they insist you write your name on the offer tree, you write any contribution you give to the church. Yes, you are giving to the Lord. Yes, you're sowing a seed. Everybody does that. Like my former business, you have people that contribute. You can do up to $100,000. I used to send checks out for rich people just to churches. If I tell you the bills, they pay it as bills to churches, right? Every month, $2,000, $3,000, because they know that at the end of the year, you can take it out as a deduction. So that's the great of this country. You give to church, you get blessings from God, and you take it out of your taxes. So just give to the church.
Okay, anyone have any, yes, Rosalind.
Okay. Yeah, great. You can open 3 separate accounts, ESAs, right? But the good thing about the ESA is if your first child does not use it, that money can be transferred to the second child's account. Because what you're then doing is you have 3 separate accounts and you can invest in each account. So if you have 5,000 in one, 5,000 in another, 5,000 in another, you can do the contribute that basically you invest in the market. But there is a contribution limit per each child. That's when it comes in, right? Each child has a contribution limit. So even though you have 3 separate childs, you can, 3 separate children, you can still make that contribution, but you have to also be aware of the contribution limit for each child. That's what you always have to take into account. That's like $2,000 per child for ESAs, 529s dependent on the state. That's when you talk to your tax person and just your tax advisor can advise on how much you can put in for a 529. But yes, separately you can do for each child.
Okay, so let's say you start contributing for your child when they're like 1 year old.
Okay.
And eventually when they get to college, they've probably had a lot of money saved under their name.
Yeah.
Does it have any effect on them with regards to filing for financial aid?
Yeah, with 529, sometimes it comes in, right? 529 takes into condition. It is taken into condition whenever you're filing financial aid. But the beauty about it is, financial aid is always dependent on you, the adult, whatever your income limit is. Because income restrictions with financial aid, if you're making so much money, you might or not qualify. You may or may not qualify, depending on that. But always just have that in mind. Yes, it's good to have all these serve as backends for the child. Why have your kid go take financial aid if you have enough money saved up to pay the tuition? Because financial aid is not free. Think about it. There's interest on it. You are going to pay for it. Maybe you will not pay, but your child will finish school, and maybe the first job your kid gets, he makes $70,000, and they got to pay like $800, $700 every month. That's gonna be hard on them, right? So I always believe in doing these savings to avoid going the financial aid route. Yeah.
And even to add to that, sometimes is that something that I've seen done before is that the first year the moms and dads are the ones who watch, who are the parents and guardian, right? Let's get this. But after that, the kid can actually apply on their own, right? Now, and that's where the end income bits comes into play, right? For financial aid, whoever's tax return is on determines the income or the actual need, right? So let's say there are other how to call it, other grants, right, that you can get based on low income. So in how I mentioned, you can actually pay your kids, right? The first year, obviously, they still are not with you, right? But the next year that they can use their own income, that shows that they are not as, then they can actually qualify for the grants, and that can actually help them, that can actually help them get the grants and not have to use all of their 529 plan, since it's it's with you, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because what normally look at it this way: why spend money borrowing from the government? The government will always come back for it. They will come back with interest. Why if your child gets scholarship, great. Child is smart, it gets a lot of Pell Grant, all these scholarships, great. Then that money becomes an added thing. If they need books, if you want to put them in a nice hostel, in a nice dorm, you can afford all these things. But why take a loan? And these loan percentages, APRs, they just keep going up. So it's just to avoid that whole financial aid aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. I can let other people ask in there.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Pastor.
Yeah.
They mentioned being able to pay your child, put them on payroll or something, and contributing to that. What should be the legal age to be able to do that?
So, great question. So, there's no legal age. As long as your kid is earning income, that's with a custodial IRA. Because once they turn, the only legal age that comes in is when they turn 18, or some states have the age of termination or majority. Once they turn 18, then it becomes solely the account moves to them. They take over the account. But as long as you can prove to the IRS that, yes, my child did this job and this job and this job, and this is the income that came out of it. So there is no age restriction on that. It's as long as you can prove that there is an end income, the child end income, you can definitely make that contribution.
Have a suggestion. I'm assuming that you've watched a movie that has a baby in the movie, right? Right? The baby was paid, right? The baby had earned income, right? So that is an example of how that can be done. Let's say you have a business, you make a brochure. Take a picture of your baby. The baby is the model for the business, right? Again, write notes down, right? that is the best part. Now, can you prove it? That's the main part, right? So take a picture of your baby, put the baby on the brochure, right? That's a modeling income, for the baby, right? And then invest that money into it. But the main trick is the kid has to be involved in something relating to the business, right? So if it's a baby, have them on your pictures, If they are 5 years old, maybe not 5 years old, if they're like 8 years old, have them file these, simple, forms.
Hey,
Just
have them sell lemonade. Like,
yes,
put it in front of your house. Sell
something,
lemonade, right?
doing something, right? Yeah. And then that income goes into that, right? So that's, again, me saying this, I've actually seen it happen before, where someone did an air conditioning business, and they put their kids on the brochure, all laughing and happy. You know how the brochures look like, right? And they paid their kids, and that income is what they put to that one. So yes.
Thank you.
Kids. What I want to know is, like Eric, you were saying that it has a limit, right? That you supposed to pay your child. You said, is it 12 or 13,000?
So you can pay your child however much you want to, but the maximum you can pay without having to pay tax on it is 12,900.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
if you pay your child more than that, then you're going to pay tax.
Tax on however more than that you do. And basically that actually applies to every single person here, right? But but most people make much more. Most people have to make much more than that to survive, right? So that is why that doesn't really affect. That is why that does not really affect us that much. But you can actually make that amount and not have to pay any how do you call it? Pay any taxes.
Then I want to ask another question about the 529.
okay.
So let's say I have 529 for my daughter, right? And let's say by the time Chelsea goes to college, maybe I'm not working again, okay? Then let's say she want to apply, she don't have scholarship, right? And she want to apply for financial aid. Does that gonna affect me, like not working, since she have the 529?
No, so you are not working, right? Financial aid works where whoever the guardian is reports their income, showing your total income that you make in the year. So since you are not working, it's going to show a zero income, correct? So the 529 comes in. Yes, there's going to be a limit on the 529. When I say a limit in terms of it doesn't negatively affect the kids financially, because you do not have income. So that puts the kid at a higher pedestal of getting more financial aid if they want to go that route. Yeah. But again, the goal is to get away from financial aid, right? Because the interest is crazy.
And it doesn't. So just so to understand, is the concern that you might not qualify for financial aid, or is that the income would affect the 529 plan?
Oh,
The income?
No, your income is not going to affect that.
No.
It doesn't affect that.
Yes.
No.
And actually, it might actually help in getting some of the grants as well.
Yeah.
Not so much as you having a loan, but the low income actually helps you get get how to call it, get the grants too. So yes.
I have another question.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Let's say I have a 401k
Okay.
that I had in my old job.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not working there again.
Yes.
So if I transfer that form, no, that money to my
Rollover IRA.
Yes.
right, do I have to do that?
Yeah, so what you can, it's a great question. To add to what Eric explained earlier on, so the rollover IRA, what you can do is, yes, you set up the rollover IRA with a bank, Schwab, Vanguard, or any other bank. You reach out to your old employer. Let your old employer know, hey, I'm trying to move my funds into a rollover IRA that I've established. One thing also you have to confirm with your employer, right? Sometimes these sponsored plans, they have two types of contribution. They have a traditional, which is a pre-tax contribution, and they have after-tax contribution. So you confirm with your employer, hey, are they all after-tax or there's pre-tax? Once they confirm that, if you have some after-tax, you can open a Roth IRA, and you have pre-tax, then you open a traditional IRA. If your employer opts not to do a direct transfer and gives you the check, right? Per the IRS, you have 60 days, 60 calendar days to put the check into the rollover IRA. What then happens is your employer is going to give you a form called 1099, as Eric stated. But the rollover IRA, since you put a check into your rollover IRA within the 60-day limit, the company that received the funds will send you a tax form called 5498. Right? So the 5498 is to prove to the IRS, I had a check for 60 days, I didn't spend it, I put it in the rollover IRA. So at the end of the year, you don't pay taxes on the money you received it. Right? So that's how you can work it out if your employer decides to give you the check. Then you just have to open an IRA within 60 days, put the money in, the company sends you a 5498, and as Eric put up there, you know the 1040 form, right? There's a section 4A. It will ask of your IRA contributions. So you're gonna put in the amount, and also whatever is taxable, you put in that is not taxable because you did roll it into an IRA within the 60-day limit. Yeah, so you can always reach out to the employer to initiate that process. And once you're going through that, if you have any other question, you can definitely talk to me about it. Yeah. So 401ks are, again, they are employer-sponsored plan, right? The flexibility to move it is dependent on the employer, because there is something called a vesting period. Are you entirely vested that you can take the entire amount out, right? So that depends on the the restrictions the plan has. Because 401k usually has a lot of restrictions being an employer, right? You can take a loan out of it, but the only time you can do a rollover is if you are leaving the employer. That's when you can move it. But if you request a loan and you put it in a Roth IRA, then you're putting yourself in a situation where they will report it as you took a loan out of it. So you don't want to do that. The reasons I really don't enjoy 401, I mean, it's a good thing, it's a great savings spot, because they determine what to invest in for you. Yeah, but you can talk to your company. If your company allows for it, like a company like Charles Schwab, it has what it calls a PCRA. It's a personal choice retirement account. When you move it into that account, then you have the liberty to invest in how you want to. Like that one, your employer is not tied to restricting you on what you can invest in.
Yeah. Rosalind also had another question.
So my question was also in regards to rollover IRA. So let's assume that you were working with one company and they were using maybe Vanguard.
Yeah.
and now you move to another company and they use Fidelity, for example. So when you're doing the rollover, do you go and open a separate account with a bank or whatever company to put it there, or do you roll over to the company that you're currently working with?
So great question. So in this situation, you have the option. The option you have is, do you want to roll the money from your old employer into your new employer? That's one option you have. Your new employer can initiate a transfer and take it from your old employer into your new employer. But let's say you want to use some of the money for personal stuff, right? You're trying to buy your first time you want to buy a home. Then the advice would be you move the money into a rollover IRA. That gives you that flexibility because it's an individual account where you control it, right? You can take money out of it. I think up to 10,000 can be used as a first-time home purchase. Some for medical expenses where you get the 10% penalty waived off. So it's just, again, you choose to go the rollover IRA route when you don't want to give the money to your new employer. You want to keep it into another retirement account so that you don't get taxed, but at the same time, you want to be able to control it. Because once it goes to your old employer, the new employer, the only time you have wiggle room or control is when you want to take a loan out of it. Or you want to request for a deduction. Now you can take I think the Secure Act pass, so you can hardship withdrawals or anything. Yeah.
Okay, and if I heard you correctly, I think you said the only way you will be avoided from paying taxes is if you request to have that rollover within 60 days of
That's
leaving
correct.
the company. Right.
No. So the only you avoid paying taxes, it's once the company sends you a check, you have 60 days to put it in a retirement account. So you can go to your employer, but usually the employers request direct transfers. But if you get the check, you can move it into an IRA, rollover IRA, have it set till you decide to let your employer know, your new employer know, hey, I want to move the funds over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then I have another question. I think it was in regards to Brother Eric when you said something about if you are paying a child less than, is it 12,000 or something?
1,000.
900.
Yes.
Okay. So does that only apply to an employee, or if you have a business, let's say you open your business in October, and obviously the year ends in December, and you've not been able to make up to that amount or more than that amount, does that apply to that business as well, or is just for employees?
So just to understand, you are asking if you can pay your kid based on if you've not made as much as that, if you can still make that.
Yes.
Right? So it does not make a lot of not sense per se, but it's not very practical, right? Because if you've not, so basically, let's say I am from the IRS, right? I come to your business, I have to have an audit, right? First thing I see is, okay, how much did you make, right? Then I see, okay, how much your expenses, right? If I come in and you made about 6K, but somehow you paid yourself and everybody else about 24K, it doesn't make sense on the books. Unless maybe the last year you made some more, right? So a lot of things does it make sense on paper, right? Because most people who actually perform the audits don't really know much about the actual tax code. They know red flags, right? So they see a red flag and they want you to prove that it's not a red flag. Right, so I always avoid anything that would raise red flag, right? Anything that looks even remotely suspicious, I avoid it because that will, Now, can you do that? You could probably do that, right? But again, now you might cost yourself more than you should. You can still pay, 5K. You can pay, You can pay, up to, 2K. The maximum they can pay without being taxed is 12,900, right? So you are allowed to pay even $600, for a whole year. If does that make sense?
Okay, I think I will rephrase my question. So my question was, just like if you pay someone less than 12,900, they wouldn't have to file taxes.
So I always advise whatever income you have, file,
Okay.
right? Even if it's, unless maybe 500, 600, then yeah, sure, But I also advise that, especially if you receive a W-2, right? I always advise file the taxes, right? Have it on the record. If it will cost you a lot, there are a lot of free tax filing, websites, right? So if you are not sure, come see me. If it's simple, I can point you in the right direction. If it's complicated, then I'll probably have to, bill you for it, right? So, all right. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question about Roth IRA.
Okay.
Let's say I'm not getting a paycheck,
Okay.
but at the end of is this I don't know whether this is what I want to say. Okay. Let's say I have a Roth IRA and I want to contribute to that. And if I file my tax, let's say I have $10,000, can I put that in
So
my Roth IRA?
Roth IRA contributions always have to be earned income. But the good thing is, if you file taxes jointly with your husband, as long as your husband has earned income, he can contribute for you.
Oh,
See, so that's the catch. So that 10,000 you want to put it in, you can put it in as long as your husband works. It serves as a contribution that because with these IRAs, if you file taxes jointly and one person is working, the other is not working, you can always contribute for each other. There's no limitation. So that's the great thing.
And I believe, and if I'm wrong here, please correct me. If you have a business, income from the business, you can still contribute.
Yeah,
yes, that's earned income. Yes.
Yeah.
However, you cannot deduct it off your taxes as you would the traditional, because it's a Roth and not a traditional, if that makes sense. Yes.
When
So
he says you cannot, so the sole purpose of a Roth IRA is keep the money in, get 59 and a half, the entire money becomes tax penalty free. Whoever you leave it for gets that money tax penalty free. That's the sole aim, right? Because you've had it for more than 5 years, you are over the age of 59 and a half, you pass it on, whoever gets it opens an inherited IRA, but they take contributions and they take distributions. Because you have met certain conditions, they tend to have a tax penalty free.
I have a question.
Yes.
So 59 and a half tax free.
Yeah.
Let's say if it's
without a penalty. Not
I think
quite.
it's action of a Roth
A
IRA.
Roth IRA, cool.
yeah,
All right, yeah,
Roth,
cool.
tax free.
Yeah.
Are there any hidden fees? Let's say if it's 59, you have about 10,000 in that account at the age of 59, and they say tax free. Is there any hidden fees?
So those hidden, if there are any fees associated, that comes from the bank.
Okay.
Whoever is holding the funds, that's not from the IRS. Do you get what I'm saying? Any hidden fees, that will definitely come from the bank or whoever. And I think most of these retirement accounts, in all honesty, if you go with the most known companies like Vanguard and Schwab, with my knowledge, there are no fees, like hidden fees on these accounts, because that's your retirement income. But let's say if you invest in a mutual fund, there are certain mutual funds that comes with expense fee, right? They do the expense ratio calculation, there'll be expense fee. So in order to avoid that, you can invest in something like an ETF. Those are very low cost fees. So the Fees are going to be based on whatever investments you do and who the investment manager is. But on the IRS side, there are no hidden fees associated with it.
Okay, I have another question. So,
Yeah.
let's say I invest one of my rollovers account
Yeah.
for my son, say maybe in 18 years, it will be like, let's say 100,000 tax free or deferred tax. That is the word
So-
we use.
Yeah.
How do I determine that it is guaranteed that if I'm not there, he gets 100,000?
Also, you're asking if your Roth IRA, if
Yeah.
you transfer it to your son,
Right.
what are the guarantees? So an example of these guarantees will be one, like as of the time that you were not there or you passed, right? Unfortunately, all your contributions in it, has that met a 5-year holding period? Like, has that been in the account for 5 years? Yes, if it's been in the account for 5 years, if you passed when you are over the age of 59, then you meet that. Think about it this way: the Roth IRA, the taxes are only on the earnings, not what you contributed. So what if you put in 6,500, you can take your 6,500 tax penalty free. But if you put in 6,000 and let's say you invest in the market and today you have 7,000 left, the $500 is usually where the taxes comes in. But because you are over the age of 59 and a half and you met the 5-year holding period, then that's when you get it. Your child who inherits it gets that tax penalty free.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any more questions?
So, based on what you said, does that mean that if you don't meet the 5-year mark, there'll be like a tax deduction for the child?
So it's not a tax deduction. So what then happens again? You're looking at just the earnings part of it, not your contributions, right? So it depends on what you've made on your contributions, right? So if you've made much money, that's where the tax advisors, Eric Dems, come in to assess, the 5-year holding period has been met, and then what is the earnings plus the contribution. So they have this earnings calculator set up where, okay, you put in 6,000 every year for 3 years. It's 18,000 now, but the account is now showing a balance of 20,000. So that means the 2,000 portion. That's when now we access if the 5-year holding period was met and if you are over the age of 59. If all those, so the 5-year holding period, let me give an example. If you put the money in today, this calendar year, 2024, right? 5 years from now is 2029. That's the 5-year holding period. What I mean by on your contribution. So it's just all on the earnings. With the Roth IRA, the taxes is just what you've gained. But your contribution is stay safe. You can always take that out.
We have one more question from the live. Someone asked if what is the best way to invest as someone in their 20s.
Yeah, so for someone in their 20s, I mean, it depends on, right, the specific goals and what they are trying to achieve. What is your goals? That's the number one thing with investment. What are the goals that you set for yourself? Are you trying to be in a position where you can buy a house maybe in the next 10 years? Are you trying to be in a position where you can use that money to pay for college? But if I'm 20 now and I'm back in college, and let's say I still get money from the school, I had scholarships and I have money from the school, I'm 20 years. What is there to lose? I can open a brokerage account. I still live in my father's house. I can open a brokerage account. I can buy these stocks, like these Apples, these Google, and all these stocks. Just let them sit, because this is money that I'm not betting on using it today or tomorrow. This is money that I'm leaving it for the next 10, 15 years. So in my 20s, that's what I'll do. Put money in brokerage accounts. If I'm on campus, I'm 20-year-old, I might probably try to get a job on campus. The essence of getting the job is for me to be able to contribute to Roth IRA. right? Because I have income. So I can just do a quick Starbucks work just to have some end income and put all that into a Roth IRA. Because you're getting money for the school, you get your tuition paid off, you come back home, you live with your parents. So why don't you just leave the money in for it to sit? And by 30, 35, you should be at a better advantage than a kid who spent all the money they got from college and school. So yeah, that would be my advice to the kid.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Rosalind? No, please ask, please.
So there was a form, I don't remember which one it was, that you mentioned that if you have medical expenses, you can
Yes.
use that to file taxes.
Yes.
So will it matter if you're using your personal finance or using a health savings account to pay for the expenses? Your health savings account card to pay for the expenses?
Great question. So the thing with the health savings account is that it's also pre-tax income, right? So that doesn't apply to that. Whenever you use your health system, whenever you use your health systems account, they will actually send you a form saying you use this much of it, right? And then you have to back it out with, because then it's income, right? Because you haven't paid the tax on it, right? So then you have to then prove that the income that they gave back to you was used to pay for your medical expenses, right? So it's a nice thing to have, yes, but it doesn't exactly. You still have to separate, each one, if that makes sense. But the beauty about the health savings account is that if you do not use all of it, eventually that can also be moved into that can also be moved into an investment, But with that, I also advise that you speak with your financial advisors on that to ensure that that transition is smooth.
I have a question. One way that I see that people or very wealthy people invest and save their money is in trust accounts. Can you speak a little to like just investing or putting your money into a trust account, and then what tax implications there are for that?
I mean, with trust account, I can maybe touch on the tax. Yeah, I'll talk. So the purpose of a trust account is to be able to just control your money, right? I want to be able to control the money. I want to set certain requirements or on the money. Let's say if I have the money, I have a child, I set up a trust for the child. My restrictions on the trust is basically saying, one, the child should meet certain requirements, go to college, finish school, get a good job. Once they get to this stage, they can get this amount of money. Once they get to that stage, they can, or let's say if I have these retirement accounts, with all these retirement accounts, and beneficiaries become very important thing. You can put your wife on as a beneficiary, or you can set up a trust if you still want to be controlling your money whilst you are not here. So you set up a trust, and the trust will set up all the requirements that need to be met before the money is spelled out or who the money goes to. So I believe the trust just gives you that power even when you are dead to be able to control your finances.
Okay.
Just to really quickly piggyback. So like if I have life insurance, right? So then I can put the life insurance when I die into that trust and then control how that's distributed later on?
Essentially, yes, right? So a trust is a much more restricted will, right? Wills can be contested. Trusts not so much, right? So basically, with the life insurance example, you fund the trust with the life insurance. So basically, the trust acts as entity, right? Or like a business, right? Or like even an individual, right? So you have the trust, and then you have that trust be a beneficiary of your life insurance, so that when you pass, your life insurance is paid out to your trust, right? All the trust is basically a statement saying, this is what I want done with my my money, right? Now you have to fund the trust, right? So there are many ways to fund the trust. You can use your Roth, you can use your trust IRA, your 401k, even the rental income from your house can fund the trust. It's just at that point you have to stipulate what the trust does to actually send out that income. And trust also file taxes too. So yes. But now the reason why they love using a life insurance policy is because life insurance policies are not taxable, right? So that's why they tend to and then you can invest a minimal amount as long as you're consistent. It will it will actually pay off well. Does that answer your question?
It does. I just have seen that a lot in terms of like whether people are buying real estate or, when I used to work at Bank of America, like the grandkids from their grandparents who had a trust, opened a trust, had their life insurance in there, all their properties in that trust. They were getting paid like, I don't want to call dividends, but let's say that dividends to like they were getting like $800 checks every month, and they were living off their grandparents' money. So that's why I was asking that. Is that a good way to put your investment so that you can protect or kind of have a hand in, where your money goes later on?
So basically, as he described, all the financial products that he spoke about can fund a trust. Anything a business can fund a trust, right? The main two things is make sure that you are funding it properly, and do your research on the company that runs that trust, right? So right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's the whole purpose of trust. You talk about trust fund, kids with all that. Like I can give an example where I work with an older man. Like his joy, right? Before he died, he set up a trust, and the stipulations was he's gonna pay his grandkids vacation every summer. So an example of that, right? So every summer we cut a check, depending on the grandkids, whatever their vacation bill is, you cut a check out. So the trust is just to control whilst you are away, still control money. Yeah, that's what rich people do, man.
Petty.
No, you can talk to any lawyer, and or any of these companies can help you set up a trust real quick. Or if your employer, even part of your benefits, if you have a law firm attached to your benefits, that law firm can do it for free.
You're a lawyer.
I would also recommend, I know this is taboo, to get a will, please, please. Even if you just type it and then you sign it yourself and then you get a notary just to do it, that's completely legal in Arizona. So get a will, because that is how a lot of us lose our money, lose our assets, lose our property, is we don't assign who it's going to go to, and then
the family comes from
nowhere and then come take the money. But luckily in America, even if you don't have a will, they have their own structured way to do it, where it goes to a spouse and then the children after. But if you want to protect your money and control how it's distributed, get a will, please.
Yeah. Yeah, so all those are financial instruments, right? But a stock is just basically you buying a ownership stake in a company, right? So it's nice. Apple will send you a letter as a shareholder, what a business intends to do, right? But there are different financial instruments, like an ETF. What an ETF is, an exchange traded fund. What it does is it just tracks index and the market. So with ETFs, there are sections. You can buy like commodities. You can buy. I use Bitcoin as an example, right? Recently, the SEC passed, gave a company like Grayscale and BlackRock the opportunity for them to create Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin ETF doesn't mean you own cryptocurrency. No, you don't own it. You are just sitting down at your house. You bought a Bitcoin ETF and you just enjoying the volatility of the market. Going up, you get money. Like go down, like so. Basically, you just tracking. That's why I'm not. You don't hold that cryptocurrency. You're just buying these positions to track those market. If you want to track the FX market in Ghana, if you want to track the oil or the gold markets, you can buy these positions in them. Right? And they have some for real estate. It's called REITs. Yes. So if you don't want to own it, if you don't have the resource to buy a whole house or do into real estate business, you can buy a REIT. What a REIT also does is the same thing. It tracks the market. If I'm the investor, I give my money to you. You do the building, you fund everything, right? Whatever profits that comes back, you are supposed to pay me. You share that profit to me. So you are not necessarily owning the full building, but you are enjoying the rental incomes. Like America in the stock market is structured in such a way, it's crazy. Like there's something called mortgage-backed securities. What that means is your mortgages, your companies, right? The companies you pay the mortgage to, they are just service companies. They service your loans and all that. There are companies like Northern Trust and others. What they do is they package all those mortgages and they trade it on the stock market. So a rich man will just buy mortgage-backed securities, and the loans you pay, your mortgages you pay, that's their interest and dividends at the end of the month or whatever. So yeah, so you don't necessarily have to own it. You can just buy it on the market.
And I have one question from the Zoom is, can you amend your trust?
Yeah, you can. I think the lawyer will take that. Yeah, I believe you can definitely do that.
Yeah. Sorry, my voice. It just depends on what type of trust you have. If you have a revocable trust, you can amend that. If you have an irrevocable trust, you can't, but always speak to an attorney.
To an attorney right there. Sorry, I think Auntie Howard had the question, and then Mr. Kwesi, and then Lovenia.
I just need you guys your advice. Let's say I have 401k and I have 300,000 in my 401k. And I want to use that money. Let's say I'm not working again. The 300,000 is there. And I want to use that money to pay off my house. Let's say I have 160 on my mortgage, and I want to use that money, the 401k that I have, to pay off my mortgage. What advice will you guys give me?
That's a great question. So, if you wanna, I think there are a lot of questions and factors that will surround that decision you're trying to make, right? Paying off the house, 160,000. I always say that's a lot. It's great to always consider paying off your debt, because that puts you in a very comfortable financial position that you don't have to, because at the end of the day, you don't work in anymore. So there's no income coming in. So you don't want to keep putting yourself in a position where every month you have to pay your mortgage. It can be a great decision to pay the mortgage off and have about still 140,000 to invest, because that gives you that financial security of knowing I own this house. It's entirely me now. or you have an option where you can say, you know what, I will invest this money. I'm not going to invest this money. I'm not going to do any aggressive investments, but I'm also going to invest this money to make in the market. Based on your age, you no longer working. If you speak to these financial advisors, they will be able to customize an investment plan for you depending on your risk tolerance. So whatever dividends or whatever, you can still make income on the money you're making. So whatever dividends or income you're making, you can use that to pay your mortgage. So again, it depends on how you want to look at it. Do you want to put the money in the stock market, have them tailor it depending on your risks, where you just sit home and make money off of it and use that money to pay your mortgage, or just shell out 140,000 that is just going solely to the mortgage, which probably you could have made much more money on it. So depending on your risk tolerance, what you think, it might give you that peace of mind going in. That's where I would advise you to go.
And my caveat with that is too is that you have to factor in how it's being paid as well, right? Because if you're under 15, if you're under 15, 9.5, then you are getting a 10% penalty if it's directly pulled out and the tax on the tax on that, right? So I advise that if you would like to do that, I would say speak with your mortgage company first. See if there are any incentives to paying that off with that before you do that. Otherwise, even once it's paid off, you still risk paying the tax and the penalty on that. So then it doesn't really help, because now it costs you. Let's say you have let's say you have 150, right? Right now you're paying 15,000 in the penalty alone, and then you are being taxed on the entire 150, right? So now your tax rate is about 24%, right? So now you are paying 15% plus 24% on the 150, right? So I always advise that always, per what I know, the only way to pull out money like that is to take it out, to take it out as a loan, right? But then down the line, you risk actually losing more money from that. So I advise that you speak if that is the route, second, you speak with a tax person, you speak with your mortgage company, and then you speak with your 401k company, and then once you have the complete perspective, then you can actually
Decision,
exactly, yeah.
But moving that money into a rollover IRA, investing it, can also suffice, right?
Yeah.
You avoid the taxes he's talking about, and you talk to your financial advisor. They structure it in a way that whatever dividends you make is not reinvested, but it's used to pay your mortgage, right? So there are so many ways around it, but as Eric stated, you just need to know the entirety of what each mortgage, all the advice they will give you. You put it together and see what benefits you the most.
All right, so my question is directed to say, so you talked
That's
about
right.
well, so let's say you have properties in like different states, right?
If you can use the mic so they can actually
Okay.
hear the line.
Is it good now? Okay. So let's say you have different properties in different states, and then you said you can just write it down and get it notarized. It's legal in the states of Arizona. So having properties in like different states, does that really cover everything, or like if I need to get my question? Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So will it be really covered since it's in a different state? Because I know like different states have their own laws and all that. So will that be covered since it's in a different state? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And we have one more question from Lavinia.
She's good. Like she's good.
You good?
She just
Okay.
wanna talk, don't mind her.
All right. So we will. Our time is far spent. We thank everybody who came to support. Again, if you have any more questions, please see us, right? And then we can definitely talk with you about it. Thank you very much and have a good night.